A very good evening to you and welcome to Breaking Today. My name is Frederick Muitiriri. My sign language interpreter tonight is Tracy Dorcas, and these are the highlights.
Day 2 of resumption of schools. More students troop back to school. Government makes a turnaround and announces that there will be mass testing for COVID-19 to teachers and pupils. And KAKUZI companies reaching out to Tesco supermarkets in the UK in a bid to solve human rights violations allegations by 79 Kenyans.
All right, welcome to the broadcast. You can talk to me via our SMS line, that is 111 444 111 111 Talk to me. We are live on Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube as Switch TV Kenya. Now, Grade 4 and Standard 8 learners who opened school yesterday will be assessed from Monday next week to assess if they will be ready for the national exams next year on March, even as schools register increased numbers of students. The assessments will test the learners' understanding in various subjects, even though NEC has not indicated what will be covered in the exams. This will be the first time Grade 4 learners will be sitting for their national exams. Andrew Okero reports.
With the Ministry of Education announcing the reopening of schools this week, students have packed fully to school and set themselves for the new school calendar. Many learners seem excited to have met their fellow students 7 months later.
It feels good meeting them, but because of social distancing and all, we can't hug, so you just say hi. So we're excited to be back with our teachers, and also when you're having your fellow students around, you have the psych and the urge to read.
As different schools countrywide continue to receive learners, teachers are in a rush to complete the syllabus by the end of this year to meet the deadline, as the national examinations are slated for March next year. Although the students and parents are of the opinion that the duration given for the preparation is very short.
As teachers, we have already met and discussed on how we are going to ensure that we have covered that syllabus. And so far, we are feeling that all of us will have covered the syllabus by the end of the year, by the time we are closing. So when they come back, it will just be a matter of revision.
Though it was abrupt, we were very excited because that is what we have been longing for since March.
Yes, dear. Grade 4 and Class 8 pupils will sit for exams starting October 19th, 2020, just a week after schools reopened, to test the level of understanding among the learners, and will be considered as the end of Term 1 exams that were not done when schools were indefinitely closed over COVID-19 pandemic. And as most schools try to put in place safety measures against COVID-19 in ensuring safety of teachers and students, social distancing might be a challenge when all students eventually report.
Maybe within the next 2 weeks, we might be fully prepared in terms of, we were still putting up things like increasing the number of hand washing areas.
Being the second day since the reopening, a good number of students are getting in to prepare for exams. For those who got pregnant over the long holiday, there is need for schools to do guidance and counseling for them in an effort to help them concentrate.
It is enough time, but first we feel like we need to push like guidance and counseling before we get back to our books.
Day 2, and gradually most students are reporting back. Schools were reopened to enable preparation for KCPE and KCC national examinations, which is set to begin in March and end up in April. But the question begs, are 5 months fair enough for them? To many schools, it may sound a huge setback. Andrew Okero, Switch TV in Nairobi.
Thank you, Andrew. The government now seems to be taking a turnaround on conducting mass testing in schools after classes resumed yesterday, saying there might be a need to conduct the test in schools due to the risk posed by asymptomatic patients. While addressing the media during a daily briefing at Kenyatta National Hospital, CAS Ministry of Health Rashid Aman has said that the government will be monitoring the situation in schools due to high number of students who have already gone back to school. Wellington Ojwang reports.
Barely a month since the government, through the CS for Education Zach Kenodia, said that there won't be mass testing of students in schools once classes resume, government now seems to be relaxing its stance on the same, citing the danger of asymptomatic patients.
It is a big no for mass testing.
Okay. We are not going to force teachers to be tested, neither are we going to force the students to be tested. That is an exercise which we have ruled out.
Going forward, some of the things that we will be discussing is to monitor, how do we monitor the situation in schools where we have large numbers of students? How do we monitor? I think definitely we will require to be doing some level of testing in those populations to see whether there is transmission of asymptomatic cases.
A man who was conducting the daily COVID-19 briefings also added that the risk of students in primary and secondary schools contracting the virus are minimal than it was earlier been anticipated.
However, one of the things that is coming out from a lot of work that has been done outside is that especially the primary and secondary schools, the risks of children spreading, as taught earlier, is not as bad as was considered before. So we will have to closely monitor what's happening in our schools and then take the appropriate action as we deem it fit at that time. Protocols are very clear in terms of symptoms. If a person is symptomatic and the symptoms have been defined, the cough, the fever, the shortness of breath and so on, then by now I think almost everybody knows those key symptoms, and there are procedures then of channeling that individual or child to a healthcare facility to be able to determine whether those symptoms are actually due to COVID-19.
This comes as the country recorded 318 new positive cases from a sample size of 2,592, bringing the total national tally to 41,937. On a sad note though, 10 more patients succumbed to the virus, bringing the total number of fatalities to 787. Wellington Ojwang, Switch TV.
And from that particular story, I ask you this question: do you think the government will fulfill its promise on mass testing of students? Do you think the government will be conducting mass testing of students? Talk to me on 111 444 111. That is 111 444 111. I'll be sampling some of your SMSs as we go along. After Britain's biggest grocery retailer announced the move to bar KAKUZI company from supplying its product following a ruling from the London's High Court, the Kenyan company is now reaching out to Tesco supermarkets in UK in a bid to solve the allegations against it by 79 Kenyans. KAKUZI is accused of employing security guards alleged to have perpetrated horrific abuses since 2009. Hadia Mosiwa has the details of that story.
Days after Britain took legal action against KAKUZI company for the lawsuit filed on behalf of 79 Kenyans at London's High Court, accusing the subsidiary KAKUZI of employing security guards alleged to have perpetrated horrific abuses including killings, rape, attacks and false imprisonment. KAKUZI's corporate affairs officer Wilson Odio now says they are engaging with the Ethical Training Initiative, where the leading supermarket is a member, to resolve the allegations.
I'm sure the DPP has its own way of handling these investigations, and I would request that we let that be in the ambit of the DPP.
Speaking to journalists at their main offices at Makuyu, Murang'a South today, Mr. Odio recounted that their partners, the Ethical Training Initiative, raised some issues with them and how they have been sorting them out to ensure a proper working relationship with the community.
We have been doing this very actively, not just because of these cases, but this is something that exists in KAKUZI and has existed for a long time.
Despite several allegations raised against the company, one involving 2 journalists and students who sustained injuries after they were allegedly collared by the KAKUZI company guards during a demonstration by Kititu secondary school students against the company's move to reclaim 45 acres of land it gave to the institution a decade ago. It is now a wait-and-see situation for the 79 Kenyans who are seeking justice against the Kenyan Agricultural Cultivation and Manufacturing Company in London's High Court. Hadia Mosiwa for Switch TV.
Thank you, Hadia. Now we are taking a short break, but before we do so, I asked you earlier on, do you think the government will fulfill its promise on mass testing of students in schools? Talk to me via 111 444 111. Do you think the government fulfill its promise on testing students in schools? Talk to me. We'll be back in a short while. All right, and welcome back. Keep talking to me via SMS line. That is 111 444 111. Some of your SMS is coming in. Iman James is saying, Mombasa, we are tuned in. Thank you so very much. That is Iman James. Keep talking to me. They're reading some of your SMSs as we go along. Now, members of Parliament, allied to Deputy President William Ruto, have accused Interior Minister Dr. Fred Matiang'i and Inspector General of Police Hilary Mutyambai of reintroducing dictatorship in the country, saying MPs allied to the DP have constitutional rights to hold meetings wherever they want as long as it's peaceful. Speaking during the burial of Wilfred Murigo at Kiamushero village in Madera Nyeri County, Rigathi Gachagua, Kimani Ichung'wah and Ndindi Nyoro have said that the new regulations introduced by National Security Council in regard to public meetings are meant to undermine the rule of law and the Constitution.
For the first time in the history of the world, we have seen policemen tear gassing people in church. Even here, I have seen policemen providing security. And that is the one they should be doing, not tear gassing people.
Kenya's people are peaceful. Vile tuko hapa, hakuna Mkenya wa kawaida anaweza tiapia pale nyuma, arushie mwingine jiwe. Lazima akuwe amelipwa na anajua serikali inamlinda afanye hiyo maovu.
Don't be misused by a government that has already 2 years to go. Hiyo maswali utakuja kujibu kwa serikali nyingine. Mnatumiwa vibaya. Huyu Ruto mnakataza ajenge kanisa, ni makosa gani amefanya? Na yeye ndiye alisaidia Uhuru Kenyatta akakuwa rais. Bila Ruto Kenyatta angekuwa rais. Na hiyo hata watoto wanajua.
From Nyeri, we come back to Nairobi, where October, being the National Cancer Awareness Month, the Ministry of Health, in collaboration with other stakeholders, has today kicked off the Great Cancer Awareness Campaign at the Kenyatta National Hospital, with the training and screening of citizens in a bid to raise awareness with an intention of fighting the non-communicable diseases at its early stages, as David Kagina is now reporting.
Pink ribbons are common in the month of October, which is globally accepted as the month to raise awareness about cancer. Stakeholders in the Ministry of Health, in conjunction with Kenyatta National Hospital, have today flagged off the cancer awareness campaign in the country.
Watu wengi wajuangi mpaka saa ile ugonjwa imezidi sana, lakini ni muhimu kwa sababu tunaambiwa kila wakati. Ugonjwa ya kansa ikijulikana mapema iko na tiba, inaweza tibika. Kwa hivyo vile tunahimiza wananchi wote wakuje kwanza kwa screening kama hizi, na wakikuja wakiwa na kauvimbe mahali waende kwa daktari waulize hii inaweza kuwa ni ugonjwa gani ama hii inaweza kuwa ni shida gani, na tukijua kwa mapema tunaisuluhisha.
Some of the cancer survivors, like Celesa Atieno, a stage 3 breast cancer survivor for 7 years, were among those present at the launch, giving their stories of hope to inspire more to turn up for the scanning this month.
Even though we are walking, we walk, but we know what we are fighting. When you look at me, you can't say that I've survived 7 years of cancer treatment. But now, because I've told you, you'll say, oh, so-and-so has survived cancer. So you'll find somebody who's looking very healthy, yet he or she cannot go and get a meal for the family. I'd like to give hope to those who are still going through the treatment, or to those who still have that stigma.
It is estimated that 12.5 cases of cancer in the country are breast cancer.
Cancer is not a death sentence. Inatiba, inapona. Kwa hivyo mzee akipata ugonjwa ya kansa anaonanga mwisho wa dunia umefika. Na ni mzuri hata yeye aone kumbe hata wamama vile mnaenda hospitali mnapimwa inapatikana wanapona, kumbe hata wazee pia sisi tunapona. Kwa hivyo it is very important for men also to come for screening.
Though both men and women are prone to breast cancer infection, women are the most affected globally. According to the National Cancer Institute of Kenya, as a country, we are losing 7 women on a daily basis to breast cancer, making cancer the third leading cause of death after infectious and cardiovascular diseases. And now the Ministry of Health is entirely banking on the citizens to take self-evaluations and turn up for screening in order to tame the disease as early as possible. David Kagina reporting for Switch TV from Kenyatta National Hospital, Nairobi.
Now, the big club located in Kilimani, which was ordered to shut down last year by the court due to complaints from residents around that it was exposing them to serious health risk of noise pollution, is still in operation even as the residents await the court ruling. The club management now claims that they have been following the NEMA guidelines and have since been regulating their noise.
As you all know, that big club was closed on the measurements of the noise pollution by NEMA. But there were measurements that were given by the NEMA to be operated by Big Club, and Big Club actually complied with all the measurements by making sure we installed all that was required to make sure that Big Club has got a proper soundproof. Do you know that Big Club has invested a lot of money? But we do take this business very serious, and we do also take the complaints from the neighbors living around here, because they do have their right, very serious. Yes, NEMA came to assess, but they were to come back, which I'm sure they will at some point, because this is an ongoing case. But like I said, Big Club is willing to comply to any measurements that will be given again by NEMA.
Now, President Donald Trump of United States has refuted polls that show he's trailing behind former U.S. Vice President Joe Biden in all states. Deprived of his campaign trail for 10 days by COVID-19, President Donald Trump took center stage again on Monday in Florida, vowing that he is in great shape with 21 days to go until he faces Joe Biden in the election. Vicky Mugambi has compiled that story.
President Donald Trump trailing Democrat Joe Biden by double digits in the polls, with the elections just 3 weeks away, returns to the campaign trail after being hospitalized for COVID-19, setting off on a blitz of key swing states.
It's a lot of people. You know, our competitor, Sleepy Joe, he had a rally today and practically nobody showed up. I don't know what's going on. We've made tremendous progress if you look at what we're doing with therapeutics and, frankly, cures.
Trump took the stage in Sanford, Florida, and on Tuesday, a day later, the polls by Real Clear Politics still show the current president of the United States trailing in Florida and all other states that were once his stronghold in 2016. In 2016, Trump won Florida, Pennsylvania, Iowa, and North Carolina, the 4 states he is expected to visit this week against Hillary Clinton, but now he is trailing former Vice President Joe Biden in all 4 states.
Finally, we're joined by a group of amazing supporters who recently walked away from the Democrats and will be voting for us. We have a lot of them. And we will make America great again.
Trump repeated accusations that the November 3rd election would be rigged against him, a statement slammed strongly by Joe Biden as he also calls out on the Republicans' nomination and hearing to appoint Amy Barrett to the Supreme Court just 21 days to the elections.
Why do so many Republicans today have time to hold a hearing on the Supreme Court with 22 days left to go, instead of providing significant economic recovery and needs for the people who are hurting so badly?
Vicky Mugambi, Switch TV.
All right, I'm being told it's time for business, and Clifford Dombe is standing by to give you just that in a short while. But first, a short break.
Right, it's time for business. My name is Clifford Ndobi. Small and medium enterprises in Kenya are set to benefit from financial and training support after Equity Group and the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry today signed a memorandum of understanding which will see 200 billion shillings set aside as part of the post-COVID-19 financial boost for SMEs. Our reporter Kennedy Kimani attended the event and has filed the following report.
A potential 3 million SMEs across the country are set to benefit from competitive interest rates and flexible repayment periods of up to 3 years on loan facilities after the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding between Equity Bank and the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which seeks to address the needs of Kenyan business community.
And you cannot claim to transform lives and livelihoods if you are not singularly focused, with pinpoint focus on 4 agendas or 4 thematic areas which we do at Equity Bank. 1, lives and livelihoods are only transformed when citizens are educated. They can go to school, they can tackle ignorance. 2, if citizens are healthy, they can access health services, they can go to hospital, they can afford to be able to get treated when they are sick. So a healthy citizen, an educated citizen.
The partnership will target SMEs operating within key sectors of the economy, including education and agribusiness. Under the agreement, both parties will undertake joint activities to empower businesses countrywide to build their capacity through programs aligned to business operation development, which include training and capacity building through enhanced coaching and business mentorship.
Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, in partnership with Equity Bank, has set aside 200 billion kitty for the next 3 years to facilitate, support, and sustain businesses of 3 million SMEs in this country. Equity Bank and the KNCCI both have established, namely a steering committee, training and onboarding, loan risk and data management, product development, and communication committees to assist in this program across all the 47 counties.
For the better part of the year, many SMEs are forced to lay off workers or send them on unpaid leave as they assess the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic that brought about financial constraints for many companies. According to the International Trade Center, SMEs employ more than 80% of the working population in Kenya. The Memorandum of Understanding is expected to boost SMEs at a time when the economy gradually reopens. Kennedy Kimani, Switch TV, Nairobi.
Thank you, Kennedy Kimani. Now, World Calamity Control Day, also known as the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction, aims to make our habitat, rural and urban, safe for calamities, which can displace and kill millions of people, whether it is a natural hazard or a man-made disaster. The level of preparedness of disaster management bodies saves lives. This year, World Calamity Control Day assumes greater significance amid the coronavirus pandemic. So, how does a disaster impact businesses, and what can be done to ensure they bounce back after the battering?
Disasters affect the environment with which businesses thrive. They affect the inputs to the businesses in terms of suppliers, in terms of income, and they also affect the output of the businesses because they affect the customers and they affect everyone else around the business ecosystem. There must be good policy and legal structures that support those businesses. For instance, there should be a very good contingency planning supported by the government structures that businesses, place their foundations on. So as a country, one thing is to have policies that are business friendly. We need to have policies that are protected, or that protect the business community. And we must also have businesses subscribing to certain requirements, certain preparedness, minimum preparedness, requirements, from the state.
All right, that's all we had for you from the biz.